preaching in English in a formal service, so I'm a little nervous now. So if you stare at me, I'll be more nervous. So keep your gentle smile to me, but I will do my best. Please excuse me when my English is not great, awkward, sometimes even Konglish. So, okay. Everyone has a sense of shame. In Korean, yumchi, which is knowing what shameful behavior is. In many cases, living and behaving with a sense of shame helps relationship with others become more healthy and sound. You can agree with this if you have had a hard time in a relationship with someone with a lack of sense of shame. So many of you might decide, I will not be a person with no sense of shame. I will live with a sense of shame. However, we cannot always live with a sense of shame since we are not perfect and are often in need of help from someone else. We sometimes have trouble beyond our power. In that case, we may need help from somebody or a certain organization while setting aside our sense of shame. Many of you may have had that kind of experience as you live as an immigrant or raise your children. Although we never want it, there is a time when a desperate situation overwhelms the sense of shame. Today, in this passage, there's a woman who set aside her sense of shame. She was a Canaanite woman and also called Syro-Phoenician woman in the book of Mark. Through this familiar story, let's see what made her so desperate. Today, John opens up this passage by introducing the location of Jesus, Tyre and Sidon, belonging to Lebanon today. Both cities had flourishing maritime trade and were very wealthy from the ancient time. The Hiram, the king of Tyre, had a close relationship with Israel from the kingdom of David to Solomon, and he provided the manpower and fine materials for building the Temple of Solomon. Phoenicians were originally from this region, and became the etymology of the word phoenix, a long-lived bird. Phoenicia was so powerful and became a Syro-Phoenicia after being merged into Syria. 소로보니게 in Korean version refers to here. So the Canaanite woman is called Syro-Phoenician woman in the book of Mark. This region was thriving more than Judea was in the time of Jesus. A woman in this region came to Jesus when she heard that he was there. She was Canaanite, Syro-Phoenician, and is also introduced as Greek in Mark. What are you reminded of when you hear a word Greek or Greek people? Greek people were Gentile with a high level of intellect. So this Canaanite woman can be considered a sophisticated woman, Gentile woman of the affluent society. This woman came to Jesus because of her daughter. She cried out, verse 22, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon-possessed and suffering terribly. This exclamation shows how desperate she was. We can imagine if our children are suffering like that. Today is Mother's Day. What would mom normally do when her children are sick? She would never leave her children and take care of them all night long until they feel better. When I was a little boy, I caught a bad cold with a high fever. And I remember my mom was by my side taking care of me with a wet towel on my forehead all night long. I remember whenever I woke up in the night, she was there by my side. I really miss my mom today, this Mother's Day. Mother is the name that we should be thankful to throughout our entire lives. Back to the passage. How would the Canaanite woman have felt while watching her daughter suffering from the demon? Her heart must have been broken whenever her daughter showed severe convulsion and fell down, foaming at the mouth. She would have wanted to take away her daughter's suffering. She may have tried everything she could do to heal her daughter, but it did not work out. Because of this, she may have spent so many days in sighs and tears. In the meantime, she heard the news about Jesus' arrival to her region and came to him, crying out, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me. My daughter is demon-possessed and suffering terribly." In a sense, her coming to Jesus was not a surprise, since she could have done anything if it meant that her daughter could be healed. She could visit anybody and do anything she could possibly do. That could be any mom's reaction. However, the reason why this was included in the Bible is because the presence of this woman in this setting was not ordinary. First of all, let's pay attention to her background. She was a Gentile woman who was disregarded by Jewish people. We can tell from the story of Jesus and the Samaritan woman. Jewish people considered Gentiles as cursed and heinous people who worshipped idols. They considered Gentiles as unclean people, shown from Leviticus chapter 11 and onward. So the 12 disciples may have thought, why did she come to Jesus? Did she forget that she was a Gentile? She must be insane. Her presence itself may have startled Jewish people. The issue did not stop there. Let us pay attention to the title she used to address Jesus, Lord, Son of David. Is it correct or not? Can you give me an answer? Okay. It is correct. Son of David was the messianic title used by the Jews. Although she was a Gentile, she recognized Jesus as Messiah. Even biologically, Jesus was a descendant of David. It is not evident if she had a Jewish faith and feared the Lord accordingly, but it is for sure she knew exactly who Jesus was. Moreover, she came to Jesus instead of going to idol. There was a healing idol called Ashmun, located at the northwest of Sidon. When people were sick, they normally went to the Ashmun temple for healing. So Ashmun temple was like the hospital to them. She must have known about it and probably had visited several times. Nonetheless, this time, she didn't go to Ashmun, but instead, she came to Jesus and cried out, "Lord, Son of David, have mercy on me." Jesus might have been impressed by her choices at this point, don't you think? Her maternal love, not being self-conscious, understanding exactly who Jesus was, and coming to Jesus instead of Ashmun for her daughter's healing, looked fair enough to impress Jesus. If I were Jesus, I must have been moved by her maternal love and would say, "Wow, tell me what happened to your daughter. I will take care of it." However, Jesus' reaction was not as expected. He didn't say a word. Although she cried out to him, he kept silent. I sometimes wish I could know more details about the situation in which the Bible story was written. If there were a video recording device like a smartphone today, we would have had more vivid picture of a Bible story. Most of all, I'm wondering what the facial expression of Jesus was like when he kept silent. Was it a straight face? An angry face? A thoughtful face with a gentle smile? Or a blank face? It would have been better if the gospel writers had taken the playwright classes. What does Jesus' silence mean? Why did Jesus react to her cry with why did Jesus react to her cry with silence? Jesus wanted to show how his encounter with the Gentile woman took place, how he met a woman who was disregarded as unclean. First of all, Jesus did not react to the messianic title of Jesus she used. When compared to the Jews, who did not accept Jesus as their Messiah, it was praiseworthy that she called Jesus Messiah. Praiseworthy. Nonetheless, Jesus kept silent, and it was because he wanted to know the depths of her heart. Commentators explain that Jesus began to test her, waiting for further responses while keeping his silence. Jesus did not respond to her cry, and the disciple ended up coming to Jesus and asking him, "Send her away. She keeps crying out after us." This was not to ask him to let her leave empty-handed, but to take care of her request so she can leave herself. Her desperate cry for help had made disciples to ask Jesus. Finally, Jesus opened his mouth, saying, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of Israel." What did he mean? Was it a yes or no? It was no. Her request was declined. He was saying that he was not sent to anyone else other than the Jews, the lost sheep of Israel. What does this mean? Does it mean that Jesus was not sent to save the Gentiles? So this Gentile woman was not included in his ministry? If that was the case, how can we understand his ministry already done for the Gentiles? As a matter of fact, Jesus' ministry was not limited to the Jews. In Matthew chapter 8, Jesus healed the servant of a centurion and 2 demon-possessed men who were all Gentiles. Throughout the gospel, it is not hard to find Jesus healing and saving the Gentiles. Nonetheless, why does Jesus' answer sound like he excluded the Gentiles from his ministry? We can find the answer from the fact that Jesus' response was primarily given to the disciples. The disciples may have had a certain prejudice. They may have thought, since Jesus is a Jew, he will never associate with the Gentiles, including this unclean Gentile woman. It is possible that their prejudice came from the order that Jesus gave to them as they were being sent to ministry. Do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of Samaritans. Likewise, we sometimes think that person won't believe in Jesus. That kind of person tends not to accept Jesus no matter how much I evangelize. He or she will hate topics even remotely related to religion. Here, Jesus was asking questions in his answer. Do you think that I was only sent to the Jews and not to the Gentiles like that woman? With this question/statement, Jesus wanted to break the stereotype. I hope we also can break stereotypes such as our own agendas, dividing people into who may have potential for Christian faith and those who may not, and those who I can associate with and those who I can't. The way we define a religious lifestyle and a belief that God will work only a certain way are also stereotypes that need correction. We cannot grow spiritually if we stick to this kind of agenda. Growth is not about having more religious knowledge, but breaking agendas that limit us to ourselves. Of course, knowledge itself is valuable, but it tends to build a certain frame that may restrain us from thinking deeply and widely, sometimes flexibly. It will make it difficult to have a deeper relationship with God and with others. We may hurt others by pressing our own agenda on them. It also may be against those who seem to have different perspectives from ours. The worst thing is that it will make it hard to find God who works in various ways in our lives. Breaking this frame should be our calling every day. Listen to the voice of the Lord, who asks us about the stereotypes that are embedded in us. And ask yourself if your frame is biblical, if you're open to the way in which God works, if you're welcoming God's interference, if you have something that I can't live without, if you're open to breaking the frame when associating with people, and if you are open to accepting others' a way of thinking which is different from yours. All these questions are asking, am I growing now? All these questions are another expression of the question, am I growing now? Let us ask questions each and every day. These will lead us into deeper relationship with God and people. I hope we can be people of asking these questions every day. Now the woman came and knelt before Jesus. Lord, help me, she cried out. Her desperation reaches its peak. Jesus never responds and declines the disciples' request. Her daughter continues to suffer from the demon. Things got worse. Therefore, she already put aside her sense of shame and cried out to Jesus. At the moment, Jesus answered to her, "It is not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs." That was very shocking, embarrassing, and insulting answer. Who is being called children and who is being called dogs? Jews are referred to as children and Gentiles are referred to as dogs. Thus, Jesus' answer was that she was not his child, but instead was one of the dogs. Theologically, the term dogs means separation or disconnection from the covenant, and even indicates the group of people who were against Israel. So Jesus' answer was a reminder that she was a Gentile who was not beneficiary of God's blessing. As a matter of fact, Jesus' answer came from the complaints of Judean farmers. At the time, although Tyre and Sidon had a flourishing maritime trade, but had to import crops from Judea since they were lacking harvest. So they complained when they didn't have enough crops in the winter season or in a poor harvest year. They would say, "Is it right to take the children's bread and supply it to the Gentiles?" In other words, they were saying, "We do not have enough to eat. We don't have any extras to give you." Based on this, Jesus' answer sounded like a no to her, and it must have made her feel hopeless. Now listen to her answer. "Yes, it is, Lord. Even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall down from their master's table. As a matter of fact, Jesus' answer was close to the question. Jews think that it is not right to give their bread to Gentiles. What do you think? Jesus wanted to see deep inside of her heart from the beginning of the conversation and give her a question-like answer. Then she answered, "Yes, it is Lord, you're right. But dogs eat the crumbs that fall down from their master's table." By this, she probably meant, if I have a grace of crumbs from you, my daughter will surely be healed. Here, bread was Palestinians' main dish. From that time on, they have been eating kubus, a flatbread similar to a pita bread or naan made without yeast. They eat it with some veggies and throw the leftovers to the ground after cleaning their hands or cleaning the table. Then the dogs in their house come and eat it. The woman, reminded of that, and answered Jesus as such. So she was asking a grace of crumbs from Jesus while thinking of how dogs eat dirty leftovers and still stay healthy. Knowing and understanding that even dogs are cared for by their master, she asked for care from the Lord. I was deeply moved by her love for her daughter. Nothing could stop her from asking Jesus to heal her daughter. Jesus' silence, rejection, and even being treated like a dog did not matter at all. She did not care about being shamed if her daughter could be cured. Because of her love for her daughter, she set aside a sense of shame and pride and cried out to Jesus, even when he seemed to turn away and reject her request. This love made her never give up and continues to ask Jesus for help. Finally, Jesus answered, "Woman, you have a great faith. Your request is granted." Jesus healed her daughter. She was freed from the demon at the moment Jesus answered. Her love for her daughter, along with the faith that Jesus can heal her, healed her daughter. The mother's request was granted. Jesus' mercy was given to the mother who loved her daughter more than her pride. Beloved church, today, this mother's love resembles the love of our God. Our Lord bore the shame of the cross to revive us when we are dead in our transgressions and sins. It was in order to save us when we are the slaves of Satan, like the demon-possessed daughter. It must have been shame that the God who created mankind was killed by the mankind. Awaiting the impending cross, God's answer to his prayer, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, was silence. That was a rejection. He had to experience a broken relationship among the triune God who dwells in deep, intimate, and eternal relationships. However, it could not stop his love for us, the children of God. He never hesitated to be shamed, rejected, and even died on the cross. He kept crying out to God while dying on the cross, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." That prayer was asking God to make us live. That was because he loved us, and that made him never give up. Nothing could stop him from loving us. Never forget his love for us. Never doubt his love in any circumstances. Believe in his love demonstrated on the cross. The cross is the testimony of His never-ending love for us. And now, live out your faith on the foundation of His love. As a matter of fact, the main topic of this passage is faith, the great faith our Lord acknowledges. Today in this passage, the woman firmly believed that Jesus would be able to heal her daughter, and her faith was suggested as a good example of faith to His disciples. Jesus showed a vivid picture of her faith as an example of faith to the disciples who were rebuked by Him for their little faith. Today, He also wants to see a great faith from us, His disciples. Is there anyone here experiencing a silence from our God? Do you feel that He keeps silent no matter how desperately you ask and cry out in a desperate situation? Does the absence of response to your long-held prayer make you frustrated? Are you feeling a sense of rejection that the woman might have felt? Although your prayer is not for your own sake, but for your family, church, and God's glory, it is still not answered. Never give up. Don't be discouraged. As we found in this story, the silence of Jesus and even His rejection are not the final response from Jesus to our cry. He does not stop there. He wants to see more from us. He wants to see a faith from us that He can look at and say, "Your faith is great." If you are assured of His love, be assured of His response as well. He who demonstrated His love for His children will surely answer our prayers. Because He loves us, He will surely give good gifts to us. God's silence does not mean that He gave up on His love for us, but instead it's a test that may grow our faith. So never stop praying. Pray over and over again until He says, "Your faith is great. Your request is granted." May these blessings be upon you. Now let me close the message. Today, God showed His love for us through our mothers. That's why we celebrate Mother's Day with a thankful heart. Let us thank our moms for showing us God's love for us. Dear children and youth group, your mom is God's display of His love. Her sacrifice, dedication, and never-ending prayer is a vivid picture of God's love for you. And as a parent, we are to spare no effort in helping our children grow spiritually. As the Gentile woman came to the Lord in order to heal her daughter, we are to come to the Lord in prayer with faith. He who loves us will surely answer our prayers, saying, "Your faith is great. Your request is granted." Our children will stand firm in faith as they understand God's love through us. May these blessings be upon you and your family. Amen.